Welcome to Voices from the Touchline, the podcast exploring the philosophies and people shaping modern football. My guest today is Coach Vin Blaine, a former FIFA technical expert and former Reggae Girls head coach with decades of experience leading football development across Jamaica, Grenada, and the US Virgin Islands. Coach Vin has served as technical director and director of football and coach education, helping raise coaching and player standards across the Caribbean. He also holds a master's in high performance football and is a youth football expert certified by the MBP School in Barcelona. Today, we'll explore technical direction, coaching education, and building high performance football cultures from grassroots to the international game. Coach Flynn, welcome to Voices from the Touchline. So good to see you.
Be here, Coach. Great
Awesome.
to be with you.
Yes, so you've served as a technical director in multiple countries. What's the first thing you look at when assessing a nation's football development system?
Well, over the years and being to different countries, I realized that the first thing you have to really look at is the culture, not just of the football, but the society. You know, the environment is different in all here in different countries. I've been to three countries actually. I started out in Jamaica as a technical director there. I went to Grenada in the Caribbean and also U.S. Virgin Islands. But the culture determines sometimes the training habits, not prior to you being there, the training habits, their existing leagues, and mainly the coaches' competence, the coaches around. I look at that because that's where the game is going to be developed.
Yeah, well, so, you've worked at these three countries, and what are some non-negotiables when setting up a national football philosophy that actually works across different age groups and genders?
I think some countries right now they they don't have a set approach. And the modern day football right now is about player centered. Not about telling the kids what to do or being it on you that you want to win. So my non-negotiables were making sure we're teaching the same concepts across the board, whether it be under 15, under 17, under 20. It should transition. It should be a movement from under 15s up. The difficulty is, Coach Ryan, is that you have sometimes you have a head coach coming in for the senior team with different idea of playing, playing how he wants to play then, right? And a different game model. So the question is, do we switch? Do we move around every time a head coach comes in and change our philosophy, or do we, as a federation or a technical director, says this is how we want to play? And there's a difficulty in that. It's very controversial because if you choose to play a system that you don't have the players to perform in, it makes no sense. Big clubs in the world, the Man City, the Man United, all those clubs, uh, Arsenal can go out and pick players and recruit players for the way I coach at my coaching model and how I coach. So that's a difficulty. But I think that at the younger level, it should be development over winning. So we are at the under 15 level, we're under 12 level, but then what it is you have there, the low level. My belief is that it should be it's development over winning. The higher up you go, then you can say, okay, the coach, the countries, the people who are going to look at the countries don't look at their winning, right? So players, if you have a winning team, say in the CONCACAF region or any part of the world, scouts should more come and look at you, at your players, because you must have been doing something right. So that's beneficial for the players that are coming up. So the non-negotiables are something that you put in place and should be consistent across the board with the groups and the different players. So your player, how you want to play a playing style as across the board should be looked at. But good sense has to prevail in the sense that you must understand if you don't have the players, then at the under 15, you might play a different way. And then the closer you get to the senior level, you try to replicate what the senior team does. Mm.
Right. So I think it's all about starting with a unique identity from the bottom so that it becomes much easier as you progress per age group, right? S- Yeah.
Exactly. Don't be fooled by the fact that they can play. You know, you're going to play a 4-3-3, yeah, and the younger age, they don't understand that. Oh, we're going to play a 4-5-1. You know, that is good. That is good from a coach's perspective. But is it good for your environment? That is the key. That's the key right there. Who do you have as players? You know, to take care of all these. You know, it must be practical. You know.
Right. Fantastic. So, again, as a coach myself who's constantly on the social media looking at what's happening around the world, I was intrigued that you are also with the US Virgin Islands. So, how did your time as director of football and coaching education in the US Virgin Islands reshape your view of how we educate coaches?
Good question, man. Because all the environments that you go to, all the countries you go to, you have coaches who already believe they know. So they don't want to hear what you're saying. Unless you're from some higher up, like FIFA send something there, they don't want to hear. They decide, okay, we hear. There's a saying that I have. I mean, I read it years ago, and I think when I do my coach education work, that's the first thing I say to them. One of the first thing I say to them where we are conducting is say, listen, I want you to come with an open mind. And I read something somewhere that I've been using it all over, everywhere I go. I say your mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open. And think about that. A parachute that's not open, you're gonna die. So I think that's what coaches have to understand. So in different areas, from my experience, because I went to different countries in the Caribbean to deliver courses for CONCACAF and FIFA. And I find that you have to know, that's why I talk about the culture in the beginning. You have to look at the culture, what the coaches think, how they approach the game. Are they in are they don't they don't have a growth mindset. They're there to say, okay, this is what we know and this is how we want to approach it. So that's one of the things. The experience I get is that some countries just don't have a coaching education department. So that's one thing. So the coaches have their old way of coaching and they're not conforming. The good thing about that now, though, Ryan, is that with what CONCACAF and FIFA and the region that you are from, they are now requiring coaches to have a certain type of a competency and accreditation. So the coaches are now being forced to get their A license. They're forced to get their basic license. So that's what's a good move by both all the confederations.
Yes, well, I really liked how you touched upon the point that there needs to be an open mind because obviously that's something that's lacking because coaches have found their own success. But can you share a
Mhm.
moment from your time as technical director in Grenada or Jamaica that taught you a powerful lesson about leadership and football development?
Two things I want to refer to. When I got to Grenada, the culture again, everything comes down to culture again. Um, you find that sometimes they allow the players to dictate what they should be doing and how they should go about coming to training. Do they have a birthday today so they can't come to training? It's their birthday. It's a common thing within the Caribbean. People don't want to work on their birthday. They don't want to train on their birthday. I can recall a situation where it was carnival in Grenada. Carnival is a big thing in Grenada, just like Trinidad. Trinidad is the mecca of carnival. And in Grenada, they love carnival. I don't know if they have carnival back in India, but they have a carnival here. So the head coach at the time told me that the players will not come to training because it's carnival. Now we are preparing for a tournament, a World Cup qualifier. We are preparing for that. And you won't tell me they're not going to come for the week because the carnival lasts for a week. And I said to him, listen, if we tell these players that we're gonna go to Brazil for a week's camp, do you think they will take carnival over that? Hell no. So it's a mental thing, and he, as the head coach, accepted it. Right? He, as the head coach, accepted it. So you must. So that's where the leadership comes in. Right? We must not let the players dictate because sometimes it's your job is on the line as a head coach. And the other part I want to look at now, we talk about leadership. Leadership within the federation. There's a word that I coined years ago that's called in chargeitis, right? And in chargeitis, to me, why I coined that word is that people want to show you that they're in charge because their leadership style is to say, okay, we're going to tell you what to do. Now, some countries call it a board, some call it some call it let me try to remember that now, council, right? Now they are the person that are leading the leadership of the federation. But oftentimes they forget, right, that they are only the council is in charge of governance and financial situation. They are not supposed to meddle in the technical side of the federation. But they do because they believe that, oh, we are the council, so we're going to tell you what to do. Right? So that's why I said in chargeitis is killing them. That's a disease that's killing them. They definitely want to do their own thing. So, and there's another way I look at it that affecting the leadership in the countries. Non-football minds want to tell you what to do. They are not coaches. They're never trained as coaches, right? As a matter of fact, they were never trained as administrators. A lot of them have never been trained as administration because the president select people around him that he thinks would help him. But some don't know anything about the game, right? But yet still, they're the ones that want to tell you what to do as a trained coach, as a director with experience. Those are the areas, Ryan, that's killing the whole development. And I'm sure people who are going to be listening to it can refer to it sometimes too in their own country.
Well, a lot of people can refer to it because it's definitely something very common in world football. And I love the word in chargeitis. That's a great
It's
takeaway.
a disease, Ryan. It's a disease.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
sickness.
no, great way of putting
Yeah.
it. So, now you've had
Mhm.
experience in across so many environments, so many nations, across so many years. So, in your view, what's the biggest mistake you see countries or clubs make when they try to implement long-term development plans?
For me, the long-term development plan is the environment needs. First of all, and it comes back to the leadership style. Even though you are the technical director or you're the football development person, right? Um, you put your plan. First of all, first thing when you get the job, you put out a 4-year long-term development plan. Now, you remember these things are nothing is cast in stone. Depending on the environment, depending on the weather, depending on what happens. For instance, if you have a hurricane season, you have to plan for that. So some things you might plan for that period, you can't do it because here comes a hurricane. So you have to push it back. Now, what happens with the long-term development plan is that a lot of times they want to get a lot of things done quickly without following the process. They have to respect the process. That when we come in, we're going to look at developing the youngsters. What do we want from the players? What do we want for? How we're going to develop referees? How we're going to develop managers of the teams? How we're going to develop clubs? And the way we want as a federation, the way we would want them to just go back to the player-centered approach. You have your things there and all that you want to do, and it has to come with a timeline, right? It must be, you cannot just say, I'm going to do it. It must be, when are you going to do it? But a lot of the federations, as I said, the non-football minds, they never play the game. They were never trained in anything to do with football, but they want to tell you how you should go about it. That means they want you to do, okay, you want to do an under 15 tournament, boys. They want you to do under 17 tournament, girls. And all that, they're stacked on each other. It can never happen. It must be that you say you get through the process here, because it involves staffing. How do you want to do five, six, seven things at the same time and you don't have the staff to do that? FIFA gives them a certain amount of money for youth development, but still cannot accommodate so many coaches to take care of these things. Because you have to think about it, Ryan. This is it? Around one team, you must have a coach, assistant coach, a fitness trainer, manager, equipment person. All those things are required. So if you have two things going on at the same time, you have to have two set of coaches. You don't have the money to accommodate that. So that's one of the things that restricts, not restricts, but that's one of the things that creates problem when people when the executive body tries to tell you that they want 10 things to be done between January and March. It'll never happen. So those are things that I think the federations have to look at.
Well, I think
Mhm.
you've had your own share of experiences with federations, the way you've explained so far. Now you see the women's game is growing. The game is growing. Everyone's trying to really be very passionate about the development. So, I mean, I just wanted your opinion here. Since you've worked in the reggae girls as a coach, how do you think federations can better integrate the women's game into their broader development strategies?
The first thing, coach, is that they have to respect the fact that women play football, because oftentimes they treat it as a stepchild. They don't look at it. Whenever you go to a meeting with the federation about football, they talk about the game as if it's all men. The last thing on the agenda is women's football. That's my experience. It might be different in some areas, but from my experience everywhere over the years, it's always we're gonna play this, we're gonna have a competition here. Nothing about women's football. One example I want to say to people, and if people can go back and think about it, the US national program progressed from the girls program. At, in the US at the early days, you have a game, the senior men's team have a game at the stadium, 10,000 person, 5,000. The girls, and they can check, everyone can check this fact. When the girls started and winning, 70,000 in the stadium. The girls who are the ones, and I bet you people will say no, but the female team for the US are the one that promoted soccer in the US, because soccer wasn't a big thing in the US, right? So girls now, we have to understand, let them participate in everything from a young age, right? Put them in the. It happens in the US right now. That's very good. That's why US is so progressive in the women's game, because yeah, we look at kids, a 3 year old playing, girls playing a 3 year old, a 4 year old, 5 year old. Gone are the days when it was a boys game. That's forget that. You have a lot of things in the game that people say, oh, I don't want my daughter to play because these things, no. But the federations have the responsibility to ensure that they have a junior program starting early. You might not be able to find a 11v11 team at under 10, but at that age, you can have a co-ed competition where the girls play the boys. And it's the responsibility of the federation now to say, listen, if you have a team and you're playing, you must have at least 3 girls in your team, right? And they must be on the field, right? So, but because of the winning mentality, a lot of coaches don't want to do that. But A coach cannot come into a federation and determine that. From the federation as a rule, this is what we want to do. So I think that's what they have to do to promote it more, pay attention to it, speak about it in the same breath that you're speaking about the men's team, right? Because a lot of times the girls will achieve more than the boys at the younger level, you know. So look at Jamaica's national team, the women's national. They went to the World Cup twice. Jamaica struggling to get back. Trinidad in the early days was a powerhouse in women's football, right? And the men are struggling again. So we have to look at that. If you look at the World Cup, under 20 World Cup going on, you look at the women's World Cup, very, very good.
There's a great trivia you've mentioned there that the US soccer was actually made famous by the female game rather than the male game. So, yes,
Yeah.
brilliant. Yes, so now I'd like to talk a little about you as a coach. So your experience as the Reggae Girls coach was historic, so you might want to tell the world about it. And what did you learn about building belief in underdog teams?
Well, I want to refer to, I want to go back to what happened with Spain and the way they wanted to get rid of the coach because players were coming were complaining of his style, right? That's one of the that's one thing that can deter you from doing what you want to do. My experience with the regular girls that the core group were from the UK. I inherited that team from another coach. And but the main persons on there who were good in the team were coached by me from they were 13. So I knew them, so it that was easy transition for me because all my life I've been coaching females, right? I at the federation when I started in 2005. And I had that program for like 10 years before I became the technical director. So, and in those early days, you never had players from outside. It was all local based, So my experience amongst girls is good because what I would sort of underpin this by saying this. Why I liked coaching girls at the time is that girls wanted to learn, but the boys wanted to show you what they know. There's a difference. So it was right now I'm now back to coaching again. Right. I'm a private school here that I'm in charge of the girls program. And I'm enjoying it again. At my late stage of my life, I'm enjoying it again. But coaching to me, I actually want everything that I coach. Right. The only thing I never got to the World Cup with the women's team. And if the format was as it is now, I'd have gone to the World Cup twice. Because in my days when I was coaching, it's only three teams from CONCACAF went to the World Cup. So and those days it was USA, Canada, Mexico, Jamaica, and Trinidad. Those are the top teams in the Caribbean at the time. I played off for the World Cup competition with Mexico twice and came fourth. So if the format was as it is now, where four teams can go, I'd have gone, right? I actually coached university football, University of West Indies. I actually coached them. I won everything on offer. And then I actually took my club. I was one of the founders of a football club in Jamaica called Harborview Football Club. Very good name. And I took the Premier League team, and I won the Premier League in the first year I coached. I won the Premier League. So we are. I still have a history, and I never normally speak about it, but I do have the history of the record of the only coach to have won Women's Premier League and Men's Premier League in Jamaica. Right. So that's a quick thing
Super.
of my association with coaching too.
Well, superb. Now, we'll again now go into coach education because that's also your domain. So you early on mentioned about culture. that culture is a big thing for you. So, in now with regards to coach education, what role does culture play in coach education, and how do you adapt your teaching style for different countries or regions?
And yeah, coach, I like it. I'm glad you raised that as being culture, because even in your communication, you have to be careful to the words you use when you're talking to coaches in different countries, right? Um, it's important because they certain words come across differently to different in different cultures. I give you an example. In America, they say, in the US, they say kid, or we might say kid. We call that youngster. Oh, the kid is this, the kid is that. I went to a country and I'm talking about kid, and a coach said to me, Coach, that's a goat. That's a it's a goat. That's a young goat you're talking about. So that's what one of the things. But the real thing though is that you have coaching education is a wonderful, wonderful area because it's not about it's also about exchanging ideas, right? Gone are the days, in the early days when we started out, and I'm speaking about CONCACAF because that's where I started. In those early days, we used to bring information and lecture. This is what the coaching is all about. You know, this is how you do this. This is how you develop a lesson plan. This is how you do it. Now that has changed, Ryan, in the sense that the education now more deals with your environment. How can you plan for what you have in your environment? Because a lot of people are. I give another example. An American coach came in me, instructor came in me to a particular island. He's actually from Mexico, but he grew up in the US. Now he's saying in one of his lectures, he's saying, "Oh, you must have 10, 20 balls in training that you can do." And I had to stop him, not stop him there, but I spoke to him when he was done lecturing. I said, "Listen, a club with 20 balls here is a rich club. You understand me?" So you have to know the environment you're discussing it in, right? So you have to. That's the first thing you do. You look at the leagues in the federation you're going to, and then you know exactly how many coaches they have, how many staff they have, how many teams they have, and then you present it. You listen to them. So it's about coaching education, is about development and develop coaching competencies. But apart from that, as I said, in the early days, it was more, I'm telling you this, I'm lecturing to you, I'm lecturing to you, lecturing to you. No, it has changed. I think coaching education is a wonderful thing, but the problem we might have, and I think some of the problem we are having now, is that we're putting on these coaching courses and nothing happens after. There's no CDPs, there's no continuing professional development, no C, right? So, and I think that a lot of people say, "No, I'm a good coach because I have a UFA B and I have a UFA C." But are you a good coach? So
Yeah.
the competencies are important. Leadership is important. FIFA is very big on leadership. How do you manage your environment? Can I compare my environment with an environment in India, in China? Because it's a different culture, right? When I look at Japan, Japan is a strict, very disciplined country. Can I compare my environment to them? They have millions of dollars to spend. So all those things come in with talk about coach education, because can we afford coaches to come for 1 week without going to work? So basically
Well,
that's some of the
yes.
problems here.
Yeah, that's how broad it is. That's how so many aspects
Yeah.
are involved, for sure.
hmm
So, I was also intrigued that you were a FIFA technical expert. So, what are some of the common challenges Caribbean technical directors face today?
Well, the FIFA expert, technical expert, are the one that communicate with with the technical directors too, right? So the common thing they're faced with, and I can't say from what they do, we can say what the environment they're involved in and how the freedom they're getting to do what they have to do. Because we can, as FIFA technical expert at the time, we could go in and say this is the way it should be done, right? This is development. But when we leave, do they really have that environment to work in? What is it that we do? Because the technical experts, guide them how to run the association as a technical director. What's it? And leadership they give you competency, they give you anything to do with that, right? So it is a difficult situation for some of the federations, technical directors. I've been to one country that I was given freedom as a technical director, and that's Grenada. I must mention that. At the moment, the general secretary at the moment did not interfere with anything technical. If you go to him and you mention the word that starts with a T, he said, go to Mr. Blaine. And I think that's the only way we're gonna have the development that allows the expert in his environment to develop. Right. Come back to it. Non-football minds want to run football. And that is the danger right there. So even when FIFA goes in and does certain things you find that, all of a sudden, oh no, we're not doing it that way. This is the way we want to do it. So FIFA is doing their best, CONCACAF is doing their best, right? And sometimes it's the in chargeitis that kills it.
Yes, back to in chargeitis for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Getting the buy-in from the executive is one of the big problems sometimes, because sometimes they ignore what FIFA says. FIFA
100%.
comes in and they tell you exactly how you must operate as a council or as a board, and as they step out, they want to do it their way.
Right.
The executives want to tell you, no, 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 no. Forget about FIFA. All they want is FIFA's money. They
Yeah,
want FIFA's money, but they don't want to follow the guidelines that FIFA set.
right. No, true, true, really true. So,
Yeah.
now moving on to the next part. So you've got a master's in high performance football. So what are some of the key principles that separate high performing environments from average ones?
What it does, you see, the high performance course is all about your coaching model, right? And how do you want to play, how you want to play in the different thirds of the field. If you're defending, what is it that you're going to be doing there, and the structure of the team when you're playing. Because we love to talk about the 4-4-2 and systems that play, blah blah blah. But it changes. The system of play, that if it's a 4-4-2, that is a static foundation that you start from. But when the game starts and the whistle blows, everything changes. So these are the things that we cover. Then the important part of that are the basic fundamentals of the positions. So this is when I learned that, because sometimes we look at it, but we don't formalize it in a way where you can understand it's a structure, right? Each position, right, has fundamentals. So a left winger will have certain fundamentals. A left back will have certain fundamentals. Centre backs, midfield, forwards. There are fundamentals that if coaches understand those fundamentals, easier for them to communicate with the players. I say, this is what you should be, this is what we want you to do. Because these fundamentals were not just somebody didn't just come up with it. There are studies that they watch the best players in the world, the way they move, and what becomes a normal occurrence of movement on these players. So the school came up with those fundamentals. And if you hear people talk right now, a lot of high performance people talk it's about that. And the high performance, as they say, is really to involve teams at a higher level, but you can bring it right down to the basic level and know how to
Right.
manage that information to younger kids. But it's basically that you end up going with your game model. So you start off basic, and they give you the different fundamentals of the game, and in the meantime, you're building your game model. And it gives you a broader picture of the game, and how you would select your players for your team. What are the characteristics of the players that you want to involve, right? And yeah, so you can build it like that.
So MBP School of Coaches is of course something that's very, very impressive. They are quite expensive, I'd like to say, but I'm impressed that you have done it. So
Yeah,
how was your certification as a youth football expert from MBP School shaped your views on early stage development and specifically talent ID?
it is a great, 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 great course because I would recommend to anyone who aspires to be a youth coach because it goes through, you see, it goes through things that I never knew at an early age. Um, Age appropriate training is one thing. We talk about we talk about things like let me get my head together. We talk about um, it's slipping me now. I'm coming there. I'm getting there, Ryan.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm sure there's a lot of information
Biobanding,
on it. Yeah.
biobanding, which is biobanding is one of the things that I think coaches should understand too. Because biobanding simply means that you have a 16-year-old. No, let's go lower. Let's go lower. You have a 12-year-old player, 5'4". You have another 12-year-old player, is 5'8", 180 pounds, and they're playing in the same league. So the bigger player development can be retarded, because when he's challenging for the ball, all these lean and bounce youngs out of the way and they go score. So the younger one, like a Messi, would have to get more technically or develop more than technique. The other one doesn't have to do that because he's bouncing other people up the way. And those are things that it covers how you approach training for the young age, and it covers a lot of and it deals with the coach. It doesn't deal with the player. How you can now approach your training sessions. What is it that you can do to improve the child, right? The players. So it's a very good course.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. And finally, now with all the plethora of experience you have, what's one piece of advice you wish every grassroots coach could hear? Something that would immediately elevate their impact on young players.
Things I encourage, is like the same thing as make sure that you cover age appropriate training. Know exactly what is needed for the different age groups, right? Think about the fact that you have to improve your competence level. The coach should concentrate on himself and make sure the leadership, I must and a lot of them talk about playing style. Playing style comes in, but at a young age, you know, it's like a person in a it's like a person in senior football at 50-year-old, and you're telling the man, oh, must make the run. Where is he gonna make a run? You play within your own competency level and the environment you're in. So don't over coach, right? Always think about the player. Let your training session be player centered. Your coaching style is very, very important. Are you allowing them to make mistakes? Because the only way they're gonna learn. There's no player that comes on in the game and knows everything. The coaches have to do a lot of reflection. Did I approach this situation right? Right? Was my session did I achieve what I wanted in my session? Those are some areas that they have to. One of the areas that is basically the one I am very, very up for is player-centered approach, not coach-centered. The player does if the player did something wrong in the first in training, Ryan, and a player does something wrong in the first 2-3 minutes, you just don't worry about it. Yeah. And what you do is you see if it's a constant. It's a constant, then you can approach it. But again, just start, hey, And at the end of a training session, let them enjoy themselves. Don't stop it. Just let them enjoy themselves. So those are the things that you have to allow them to play for sure, right? And but in the same breath, you're training them. You as a coach have to develop your own competencies, you know, um, and don't be afraid, right, to say this is it, right? They have a saying that if they go amongst other coaches, there's a thing called imposter syndrome, you know, which is something they have to make sure that doesn't affect them because you're gonna have people around that's better than you. Just like a coach doesn't want another coach that's better than him to beside him. Why not? I want somebody who can speak to me maybe at a higher level or the same level as I can, right? So that's basically what it is, man. Age appropriate training, your leadership style, your coaching style, right? Not so much your playing style and thing, right? And always make sure you plan your sessions ahead of time.
I think this was a phenomenal answer. This was probably a good guideline to a lot of grassroots coaches, coaches of different levels all across the world. So this was fantastic. Now, just before I let you go, I know I've done your introduction at the beginning, telling the world about your journey in very brief, but if you had to explain your footballing journey in all these so many years, and if I'm not mistaken, you've been in football for 50 years or more, how would you explain your journey?
I came into training and the coaching very unusual way. I played for my school, never got to play at a higher level, um, personal reasons. But how I got into coaching is my wife who was associated with a club, with a school in Jamaica. And one day she said to me, they have this program, can you go help them? I never had any certification or anything. I just knew the game. I did some coaching, with teams, but never anything that is. I was never serious. I was a businessman. I was a businessman. I wasn't a coach at the time, and I went down and I got to love it. Then I just kept moving up. I moved to another school that I took their program. Then I went to the University of West Indies where I coached for 10 years. And then the national program beckoned, So I got in there in 2005. I went to the national program in Jamaica. And I moved up from, I entered it as for the women's school because I won everything in my club. I won Premier League in my club. How about you? I won 5 straight knockout competitions. Yeah, so I was into it. So now I started to love it. So business came second and the coaching came about. And then I went I from that I was a manager too. I was managing Renee Sumois when he had the senior national reggae boys team. I coached all level of the girls and did well. I think if I must say, I think we went to I went to every single CONCACAF playoff. Just that I came up against Mexico 3-1 both time. And as I said before, those days we couldn't move forward. Then from that I decided one day, listen, no, I'm in Jamaica. I want to expand my knowledge of the region. So I applied to Grenada and I was accepted there. So I was there for a few years. Then I had some not really difficulty, but sometimes I'm a little bit short, I'm a little bit reactive. I don't like the foolishness around me. So I left and went to Grenada, to US Virgin Islands. And then eventually the same thing happened again. Non-football minds want to tell me what to do. And it's not about the money, it's about the comfort level. You know, I can't see if you bring me to your country and I have the experience. You have never done and you want to tell me, or you want to do 20 things, 30 things in 6 months. That will never happen. You can't do 30 projects I got a list at one point with 25 or 29 things that must be done between January and July. In what country? In what lifetime? So you have to be very careful of that. So my journey came from a coach, then I moved up to technical director. I was a manager at one time of the senior national reggae boys team, and then I went on to other areas. Then I decided at that late age to do the masters in high performance, and it's the best course I've done in my lifetime. The best course. It showed me what football was all about. because that was the idea. We're going to play 4-4-2. We're going to do it, but that's not, it's not that. The structure of the team, how you identify the movements. I also did a course if it on what's it again? Where we assess teams. I'm getting old, so don't worry if I miss some of those things.
No, not at all, not at all.
Analysis. I did an analysis course. So I try to do everything. I don't stop. I've never stopped learning. Every single day, I something to do with football. Every single day. So that's the only way you can really, really learn.
Yeah, no, what an incredible journey you've had. And just for the audience, this has gone spanned for more than 50 years. So you've had half a century in football. So that's amazing. Coach Vin Blaine, this was fantastic. I've had the good fortune of interacting with you in the past on another channel, and so good to hear your voice, hear your thoughts, hear your insights on the beautiful game. Thank you so much for your time.
Well,